Yes, nothing says Happy New Year quite like a song from a convicted sex offender. Good morning. How the devil are you all doing this fine morning? Um, Me? Well, as Gary Glitter just said, it's good to be back. I can't say that my festive break was particularly relaxing, although I can confirm that root beer and turkey is a marriage made in heaven. So thanks again, Gary Muirhead. I spent most of my break teaching myself some advanced video editing techniques. None of them will actually make it onto the live show, but you can expect to see a bit more flash bang and whiz bang about some of our recorded video output. Something a bit like this, perhaps. Yeah, I think I might keep the lightning eyes on standby for when I get angry, which happens with increasing regularity. Speaking of our video output, we are upping our game yet again. The first full episode of our podcast series, Demolition's Greatest Threat, dropped this morning. Over on our YouTube channel. In addition, the second episode of our Tech Foresight show, this one featuring the fine folks at JCB, also went live this morning. My mantra for this year, ahead of this year actually, is if I'm awake, I should be either broadcasting, recording, or scripting. And to that end, I've just ordered myself a nice new laptop that will allow me to script and edit on the move. And far more importantly, will make it possible to broadcast while we're on the road too. So look out for a bit more of that. You can expect a lot more from us over the next coming weeks and months. In fact, the new regime starts just tomorrow at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'll be live on Instagram with our new weekly show, which we're calling Talk Tuesday. If you're around, and assuming you're on Instagram, you're more than welcome to join us. In addition to that, tomorrow will also be mark the broadcast of an interview with an up-and-coming Instagram star, Ben Wade, better known on Instagram as Ben the Operator. If you've ever had any doubt over the commitment and work ethic of the younger generation, then I strongly suggest you give this one a viewing. And while I'm looking ahead, I wanted to let you know that we will soon be hosting the first of our evening shows of 2023. That will take place on Wednesday, the 18th of January. And appropriately, the subject will be the future. This year's future, actually. Together with you, I'm hoping that we can all make some predictions for what 2023 has in store for the demolition and construction industry. My plan is then to revisit those predictions at the end of this year just to see how accurate we were, or not, as the case may be. So that is 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 18th of January. Just one final thing before we get today's episode underway. My weekly column also landed first thing this morning. Rather than making New Year's resolutions, the column questions why we're still awaiting resolution of a number of issues from previous years. Things like, did the CMA investigation? Go take a look if you would like to see that. You can check it out using the link that I'm about to post in the chat. I promise this is the final point before we cast off. There has been another change behind the scenes here at the Breakfast Show. I'm aware that I often promise links and additional resources in the chat, and I'm also painfully aware that I often can't find those resources or I just forget to post them. Well, today we actually have a moderator in the chat to assist with all that. He won't be on camera because obviously he is an international man of mystery. But if the chat seems to work more efficiently today, it's because my son Fred is lurking backstage, pulling strings and trying to keep this unstable vessel afloat. Now, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, which I've completely forgotten to write, and get this show on the road. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. It is Monday, the 9th of January, and as that remarkably persistent guy just said, welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, a perfect storm is approaching the UK construction industry. Should we batten down the hatches, or is it already too late? We're off to the US in the company of those fine folks at Doosan. We're celebrating 50 years of Gallagher's, and we're looking ahead to an electrifying Conexpo with Volvo construction equipment. But far more importantly, we're going to be joined a bit later in the show by Neil Edwards, head of the Builders Conference, as we look back at the end of last year and also ahead towards 2023. And we'll get to all that in just a second. But first, let's see who among the rich and the shameless will be celebrating a birthday on this day of days.
Happy birthday!
And many happy returns to former US President Tricky Dicky, Richard Nixon, and to Dad's Army star Clive Dunn. Happy birthday also to novelist Wilbur Smith. I only ever see Wilbur Smith books while I'm on holiday for some reason. Not sure why that is. Happy birthday to singer Joan Baez, comedian Freddie Starr, and to guitar hero Jimmy Page. To singers Crystal Gale and Paolo Nutini, and to golfer Sergio Garcia. But far more importantly, a very, very happy heavenly birthday to arguably the greatest male singer of all time, Mr. Scott Walker. Many happy returns to them, one and all. Our first item today is not so much a news story as a discussion point and a confirmation of what many of us have feared for quite some time now. A leading financial institution is warning that the UK construction sector could be facing a perfect storm that could result in mass insolvencies. Not unsolvencies, insolvencies. Here is how I reported it last week. The new year is less than 3 days old and already the bad news has begun. Construction Inquirer is reporting this morning that construction is facing a challenging year ahead with over 6,000 company insolvencies expected in 2023. That's according to financial experts at Red Flag Alert, who fear that 100 building firms will go bust every single week as the total number of insolvencies across all sectors hits 32,000 this year. The financial experts are warning that companies that just kept their heads above water through the recession are being dragged down by the bad debt left behind by those that fail. Unpaid bills are compounding the pressure generated by staffing and supply chain issues, a legacy of COVID, inflation and interest rate rises. Let's hope and pray they're wrong. Now, I know that I've personally seen some demolition companies literally scrambling to attract some new work after planned projects have been delayed or cancelled entirely. Also hearing reports of lots of industry workers seeking alternative employment. I'm planning to discuss this a bit further with Neil Edwards a bit later in the show, but I'd like to get your take as well. Are you seeing the storm clouds gathering, or has the thunder and lightning already started where you are? Please let us know in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. I want one of these. While you're mulling over the parlour state of the UK construction sector, let's head stateside for the first of 2 times today. And this first time, it's in the company of those fine folks at Doosan.
I was born and brought up in this area and love it in Addison County. I'm proud to be an employee of a family-run operation that's been in business for well over 110 years now. My name is Lauren McNally. I'm the fleet maintenance manager for the A. Johnson Company, Bristol, Vermont. I've been employed here for a little over 20 years. The wood and timber industry is very important, not only to Vermont and the local area, but the world in general, to supply some of the world's best quality hardwood products that's used on a worldwide basis to make furniture and flooring and all kinds of goods that we have. The wheel loaders that we have that are Doosan brand, we have 2 of them that we're using daily at our sawmill here in Bristol. We started out with the first machine that we bought or leased, actually was a DL 350. We started that because we needed to replace an aging machine, and we had really great luck and experience with the excavator that we had, and we started to explore the wheel loader, and Jamie McRae, the salesman at Keystone Commercial, was outstanding. Became pretty close friends with him, I think, in buying process. When the lease became due on the DL 350, it was a no-brainer for us to go right back to see Jamie and start talking about a replacement machine. I had no interest in going anywhere else. We've had outstanding experience with the 320, not only through their parts department, but also the service department. It was second to none in my opinion, and they took care of us well, so gave us no reason to look anywhere else. We were very happy with the machine. So once we started to explore what the new options was, the new model was a DL 320. money and taking the place very well. There was no new learning curve at all. It was just like getting out of one machine right into another one that was very seamless. Well, another great thing about these machines, we had a piece of equipment that was 25 years old in this day and age is old technology. That machine was noisy. It was a noisy cab for the operator. Getting into these Doosan loaders, night and day difference. The engine itself sitting outside is very quiet. We're operating our equipment roughly 42 to 45 hours a week. The machines that we had that this Doosan loader has replaced was burning in the neighborhood of 6 to 7 gallons of fuel per hour. The Doosan 350 and the 320 neighborhood of 3.5 to 4 gallons per hour. So we've cut our fuel consumption easily by 50%, which in a year's time is a considerable amount of money. So we're very pleased with that fuel economy for sure. I think working here, not only working with my hands and meeting people, but it's important to the overall economy of the state of Vermont. I think timber and logging industry plays a big role, not only in managing timberland, which our company does a lot of, promoting healthy forests and healthy timber management. It also provides a product that is used on a worldwide basis.
Yeah, as I said, we'll be heading back to the US a bit later in the show. But first of all, this. It is one of the best known and most respected industry names here in the southeast of England, and it's headed up by one of the industry's favourite sons, Pat Gallagher. His company is celebrating a half century in business. Let's take a closer look.
I bought my first machine in 1970. I was working for a company called PJ Burke Kent Limited, Pat Burke, the owner, and I explained to Pat one day that when I got to know him pretty well, that I'd like to own my own digger. And his words to me was, there's enough in this world for all of us. And I've lived by that ever since. And I'm proud to say Pat is still one of my very, very best friends. My generation had great respect for the excavator. We seen firsthand what it could do, how easy it made our lives, and the productivity we could achieve, and 10 times greater than hand digging. I bought my first Hitachi over 30 years ago. And why? Because we've had a great reputation as being a very reliable, very productive machine. We bought hundreds over the years, but today we run 100 machines in the plant fleet, and we probably run another 10 or 15 on the quarrying side, on the aggregate side of the business. We buy them because they're very reliable, they got great resale value, and the other big advantage, the drivers love them. Our relationship with Hitachi UK is very, very good. What they say they'll do it for you. Their service is second to none, and their aftercare and all that, it's great, it's fantastic. My favourite machine would be the bigger the better. The bigger the machine, the bigger the action, the more you're doing, and that's what the bit of it I love. The type of work we do is predominantly distribution centres, big warehouses, and infrastructure for some large housing schemes. That's on the contracting side. Of course, on the quarrying side, it's different. It's all process and aggregate. What I love about quarrying, after 30 years at it, we're still learning, it's still challenging, and you're always looking for a better way of doing it. What I'm very proud of on the aggregate side is we bought a farm of land. I'm sure half the people thought I was crazy when I talked about setting up a quarrying business. And we made promises that we'd put the land back as we found it or better. And I am so proud we have kept that. On the construction side of the business, I'm very proud of the schemes we've been involved in going back nearly 50 years, both here in Kent and further afield. My hobbies are, I suppose, watching Mason United play at the Gallagher Stadium, quite a bit of horse racing with my great friend Peter Craic. Horse racing is a bit like construction. We all love a winner. My dream when I started was to have one day have a very, very successful business. To work hard, have great values, and above all, whatever we say we do it. We value our clients, we value our workforce, we value the area we live and work in. And we always try and be the very, very best at everything we do. My hopes for the future would be that we'd be valued by our people, respected by our clients, and admired by our competitors.
Yeah, my old company actually did some PR work for Gallagher's back in the early 1990s. I wasn't personally involved, but I do remember my partner talking about how much he admired Pat Gallagher and everything that he stood for it. Let's face it, if you can survive 50 years in this industry, you must be doing something right. Now, I'm not going to get too stuck into the comments at the moment, but this one seems awfully timely. Gary Muirhead, morning, Gary, and thanks again for the root beer. Went down a treat with the turkey. Gary says, just arrived back on site today to find the machines had their fuel tanks emptied. All the fuel on site had been stolen. Well, with that in mind, it seems only right that I should be playing this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Although it was last year, it's still only a matter of days since we pulled off the road to Belma, and already it is time to begin the countdown to ConExpo. Yeah, you can expect a lot more like that over the next 7 or 8 weeks, and you can expect even more once ConExpo is over and done with. Once we get back from Las Vegas, we'll be bringing you a whole lot more. Now, it's almost that time. It is finally time to find out what the real world of construction actually looks like. The head of the Builders Conference, Neil Edwards, is waiting patiently in our green room, which is neither green nor a room, actually. So while I'm getting him on the show, here is his theme tune. Good morning, Neil.
Morning, Mark, and a very happy new year to you.
And a happy new year to you. I can't believe we actually spoke off air before the show started. You forgot. New year. Speaking of happy new year, obviously November wasn't great. We've just heard about the potential of 6,000 insolvencies. I'm almost afraid to ask, how are things looking?
Well, I wish I could tell you. Unfortunately, we've had a few technical difficulties here at the Builders Conference over the last few weeks, and so therefore some of the things aren't working as well as we would have hoped. But generally what we can say is the fact that it has unfortunately The storm clouds that we were discussing, maybe what was it, in September, October, that we were talking about, they've not only rolled in, they've actually dumped a lot of issues, and it has become very, very evident that there is a little bit of a downturn within the construction sector.
Yeah, it's a terrible way to start the new year. I mean, obviously, you kind of expect a bit of a downturn in November. You expect a bit of a downturn in December. Obviously, you can't actually provide hard and fast figures on this occasion. But given the fact that this industry runs very much on sentiment, this suggestion that we could be facing 6,000 insolvencies in a year, that's not going to get us off to a good start, is it?
No, not at all. And yeah, it's very very disappointing. The truth is, our table it was becoming a little bit unstable, and the technology behind it was becoming unstable. So we had to look elsewhere. And we're very much delighted to announce that we've partnered with another business called Fortius, and that they are an extremely driven data business as well, and they're helping us out. And we're now full steam ahead in trying to, and we are providing that information to the rest of the industry. But we have, unfortunately, in December had a few issues. But we can still tell you we've been still collecting the data and everything else, and the industry did start to wind down rather than sort of like 3 weeks into December. I think it was 2 weeks into December, and it was becoming more and more difficult for our research team to find people, or whether they were in the office, or whether that was just a real thing that was happening, because they didn't want to speak to us, because we are hitting that point where there is a perfect storm coming through. There is a perfect storm, no matter. And I know one of your articles, one of your comments earlier on was about fuel theft. I think we've got to look at everything. This is going to happen. There's going to be more people trying to abstract what they shouldn't have, i.e. thieves on site taking things, etc. There's a lack of work. Councils are revising their budgets. The fuel costs are going through the roof. And I think it's this week sometime the government's going to tell us how they're going to help industries with regards fuel, and a lot of people are saying that's most of it's going to be removed. It's only going to be the big sectors like steel, glass, ceramics that are going to maintain their the money being received back from the government. So it's just not looking, and I never like to say the doom and gloom, but it is not looking too good. But if you look for the overall year, because we've still got some of those figures available, but not exactly, I can give you some global elements. Kias were the overall winners in 2022 with regards value of projects. We're looking at something like £3.7 billion worth of work for Kias, which was roughly equating to 16 projects a month, which is below what they were looking at in 2021. Second on the list is Morgan Sindall, and they're 2.5 billion, so some nearly £1 billion less than Kias, but they've got 271 projects that they've actually secured. So they have got this, the overall number of projects that they've won. But does that mean that the projects that are coming out in the future now they're still going to be projects, but they're going to be slightly smaller in value? So clients are going to are we going back to the old system of clients still want something, but they can't afford the BMW anymore? So they're looking more at the Ford Focus. And that's what possibly could be happening. We haven't got exact format or exact science or data at this present moment in time, but it does look like there is this storm coming through.
I'm, despite the fact that we discussed it and its imminent arrival, this storm does seem to have landed very, very quickly. I know from sort of my network online and beyond, all of a sudden you've got companies that had been promised work. I mean, I'm speaking specifically here about demolition companies. They've been promised start on projects. Those projects have been shelved or cancelled altogether, and it seems to have happened in a matter of weeks. One day everything's hunky dory, the next they're scrabbling around for work. And I know Dan Cullen, who's probably still in the chat now. He runs a bunch of WhatsApp groups trying to find men work, and he's been absolutely inundated. So I mean, I know we talk about the storm clouds gathering. It looks like they've gathered, as you say, they've dumped a whole heap of stuff on us, haven't they?
Absolutely. And I went out this. A lot of the builders conference, the way we work is based on relationships. It's based on speaking to people. That's how we're very good at that and everything else. So I went out with a couple of businesses last week, and they had some pre-orders, some initial enabling works orders for some projects with regards for councils. For one of them was for a new. I think it was sports and social for the local area. Now, what has happened was the project was about 1.5 million, so the temporary road was put in and things like that to the actual site, but they were waiting for the full go ahead from the council. But it wasn't a problem back in October, not a problem. And it was as I say, £1.5 million project. As of yesterday, or as of last week, that's been put on hold. So your view, the people that you've been speaking to, is not dissimilar throughout the marketplace.
Yeah, one of the things that somebody pointed out, and I must admit, I didn't particularly like the way that it was worded, but somebody sent me a message saying something along the lines of, we had machine operators who were stating proudly on social media, I wouldn't get out of bed for less than £25 an hour, and now all of a sudden they're parked up and they're not actually working. But I mean, we did have that real hike in just about every cost known to mankind, didn't we? Fuel, materials, wages. I wouldn't say we brought it upon ourselves, but knowing the way that you and I watch this industry very, very closely, things do go in cycles. And you always say the expression, fix the roof while the sun's shining. I wonder just how many have actually fixed that roof.
Yeah, and I don't think as many as we would have hoped. Or what we should be doing is obviously taking, while we've got those extra value coming, or extra monies coming through the business, I wonder how much we've actually invested and how much we've actually put into our pockets rather than investing. I think we need to see what's going to happen in the next few months, and it'll be very, very in the next 3 months, because there's quite often a huge influx of new projects starting in January. But obviously, if they start in January, the payment terms within businesses, within contracts, means that they'll probably, for works that are being carried out in January, they won't get paid until the middle of February or the end of February. Now, if they haven't got a substantial cash flow in place now, how much of that, because suppliers and materials, they are wanting to be paid very, very quickly. They're not wishing the same terms and conditions as what probably a main contractor is on. So if you haven't got a strong balance sheet, are we going to see in the first 3 months of 2023 some significant number of businesses going to the wall?
Yeah, well, there was that prediction of 6,000 potential insolvencies during 2023. Jim Turner's just said a lot of people will be holding off projects because they can save money by putting it back out for tender. When there's less work around, causes an initial knock-on. Totally right. And Dan Cullen, I mentioned Dan, I can see the rates dropping to pre-2015 levels. Can see it going that way. And unfortunately, that is the nature of construction, isn't it? We do that rapid growth, rapid decline, rapid growth, rapid decline, and it looks like we're on the verge of some fairly rapid decline.
Yeah, I think so, and we all love to hope that the housing market will support the actual industry, and it forms a significant part of the industry. But again, we've got a bit of a storm coming on there with interest rates and inflation stopping that. So we are kind of rolling in a bit of an issue, and if you would ask me personally, I think it's going to be a very and we talked about this in September, October, you and I ourselves. I think 2023 will be at best a consolidation year, if not a little bit of a retraction year, because of, and it's not so much what we're doing. It's a UK as well as worldwide issue. This is going throughout the world, that people are, and I know, are struggling, and I know we are it seems that a lot of predictions are that the UK may be the worst growth in 2020 out of the G8 countries in the world. But I don't, I think it's going to be seen across the world that we are going to be looking at every single element because of costs are just increasing so much.
It seems like the wrong time to be discussing this because we are literally just heading into this downturn. But it's the impact that downturn has. You just mentioned house building. We have this aim now of 300,000 houses. House builders are notorious for shutting up shop or battening down the hatches and sitting on plots of land, until the conditions are right. If we're laying off staff, we're not then filling the skills gap that we already have. So, when all this does blow over, and it will, when it all blows over, we're actually further back than we are today, aren't we?
Regrettably, you've just hit the nail on the head there. Yes, unless we invest, and if you go round businesses, the decision, a lot of the decision makers are of an age that need to be supported by people coming up from the bottom. And if we're not training those people, then are we going to have a gap in the market? And I think we will, especially, and it's we need a bit of positivity, and I haven't seen that positivity from the government. But saying that, what is it now? I think it's less than 2 years away, isn't it? It's not this December, it's next December, that there will be a general election. So at some point in the future, and it could be 6 months' time because it might have to take that amount of time, but the government is going to have to start to look at investing. Otherwise, the current government will definitely not be in power following in 2025.
Yeah, Jim Turner's just come back. I think this is telling. There'll be a lot of housing development starts put back or existing ones mothballed. I'm on 100+ site. There's only 10 sold so far. I mean, all of that goes back to, we literally had a bit of a moratorium on mortgages not so long ago. If you can't get hold of the money to buy your house, why bother building the damn things,
Yeah, exactly. There was in one day over 900 over 900 products within the mortgage sector were removed. A lot of them have come back, or many of them, but not all of them. So if you put all this jigsaw puzzle together, you are starting to have this bit of a perfect storm in front of us. But it's not as if here at Builders we didn't see it coming. We didn't want to say it was coming. We knew the storm clouds were gathering. It's just that we probably needed to act somewhere like in the middle of June and July, somewhere to make sure that we were protected now in January and February.
Yeah, I think timing is everything as well, isn't it? You and I spoke before Christmas. November and December are notoriously we're on a downward path because everyone wants to go off and have their Christmas parties and stuff. So, some of the figures we were seeing, that they may have been down to festivities, they may have been down to something a lot more concerning. And in absolute truth, we still don't know. January it's only just begun. And January is usually a pretty slow start. So we're not really likely to know the proper situation much before February, March time, are we?
Yeah, the start of Q2, I think you're going to start to understand what the real impact is. But on people outside will be able to tell you, and this program here is very good at the fact, because we're actually dealing, the people that interact with this broadcast are cold face, shall we say. It's a good indicator of really what is happening. And if you're seeing certain things saying, I'm looking for some extra work because this has been cancelled, this has been cancelled, and I'm hearing it as well. It's if it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it probably is a duck.
Yeah. Jim Turner has just said, there was two things actually. We need more social housing being built now. But again, social housing tends to be down to housing associations and local authorities. They are certainly the local authorities will probably be looking to sit on their hands for a little while to know what money they've got to spend, and remove any right to buy. Social housing should remain that way for the next person that needs it. Totally agree with that.
Yeah. But I think there's also going to be an issue with social housing. I think just before Christmas, well, I think it was in November when there was that tragic accident regarding that young man, that young lad that died because of the lack of well, it was moss, wasn't it? Mold, wasn't it? It was mold within his house, and it was obviously shown quite that the actual housing association hadn't fulfilled its duties in maintaining a level of occupancy for all their users. I think that's going to take a little bit of a money out of the new build and go back to a refurbish, so it'd be a refurbishment side of things, and obviously not towards the end of this year, we're going to have the answers from Grenfell, and that is going to have a huge significant effect, because you're going to have such things as the Building Services Act and things like that coming into where people are going to have to show and identify that some trades are having CPD through their work. You just can't say, yes, I've got that. No, you've actually got to show that you've been on these courses. You've got to show you've been having development, which is normally coming from obviously your profitability and your excess is there, that you train your staff. So, all of this is not building to something that is quite palatable, shall we say, for the general person out there. We want it to be nice and easy, and look to the fact that there is going to be more work this year. But there's a lot of things going on. There is a lot of things going on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just going to say a very quick good morning to Tim, who's joining us for the first time. Morning, Tim. Thank you very much indeed for being here. You just mentioned refurbishment with things like the houses that have got mould, Grenfell. We've also got this situation in the demolition sector where we're talking about threats to demolition over embodied carbon. There is this growing lobby among environmentalists, but also among certain politicians as well, that rather than knocking down buildings, we refurbish what we've already got. You and I have been studying this for quite some time, and over the last 4 or 5 years, if I'd have had hindsight or foresight, I'd have put my money, I'd have backed the Hall City's house building. As it stands at the moment, I'd be backing the refurbishment also a whole lot more strongly, I think.
I think so. I think you've got to be nimble on your feet, and that's where obviously our information will help people in the future to show where the demands are. I think there is going to be a push towards housing refurbishments and getting quality back into those, because that is also cynically it is a vote winner, isn't it? Because you're not going to have those headlines that came through latter part of last year, and people are going to want to see everyday users of social housing live in what is acceptable rather than totally unacceptable ways.
So, given the fact that you've had your technical difficulties, and I won't pry because, frankly, we suffer from those on this show.
Yeah, definitely.
When do you expect to be back on stream, or are you back on stream and all guns blazing now?
No, we hope to be. There's a few bits and pieces still to be done, so I'll keep you informed, really. But yeah, our researchers are still speaking to people. We're still collecting the information. It's the aggregation of that information to get it out there. But people can still speak to me and ask me personally, to say what's happening, where do I go, what do I do, but it's one of those things that you've been there. It's a technical world that I don't really know much about, shall we say, but we're 99.5% there, so we've got 0.5% to go, so it's looking good, looking very good.
On that basis, I say this every time there's a downturn in the market. There is need for reliable, validated data now more than perhaps at any time. Where do people go to find that data? I mean, I know where to find it, but tell people where to go to get their finger on the pulse.
Yeah, if you come, we've obviously, our website is buildersconference.co.uk. Go there, and there's some information, some general information there. But please just pick up the phone. We are a relationship-based business. It sounds strange, but we do like speaking to people. But you can send us emails as well. But yeah, our telephone number is 0208 770 0111, and speak to one of our team. And we'd love to speak to you. We'd love to chat with you. Literally last week, one of our researchers was on a call to a main contractor for 40 minutes, chatting through things, etc. And that is a fantastic way of actually listening to what is really happening. So, and they were telling us all the projects that they've got and all the projects that have been currently mothballed as well. Or you can just go to just send us an email at info@buildersconf.co.uk. So we're accessible anywhere, and obviously this program this broadcast is fantastic. And if they want to contact us via yourself, you know me very well, Mark. So just point them in my direction or our direction, and we'd be very happy to tell them how they can get our information live and validated.
How's this for live and in your face? Dan Cullen says, as we speak, I've had 15 texts, guys looking for work today, right here, right now. And interestingly, majority in the West Midlands and the Northwest. There was a period in the run up to the Commonwealth Games, which was just last year, where the West Midlands and the East Midlands were the place to be. Apparently not so much right
exactly. Now. No. Well, that is not just anecdotal evidence, that is real evidence you've just captured there. So that is fantastic. You and I can speak anecdotally. We've heard this, we've heard that, etc., etc. There you have it. That's real, fast, live information to say that it is getting tougher out there, and worryingly. So I hope it's not batting down the hatches, but I think everybody's got to work a little bit smarter to make sure that they maintain their profitability, they maintain their workload, and yes, I think it's going to be a bumpy road for the next 6 to 9 months.
Let's check the suspension on the car then in that case. Neil, I understand the technical difficulties. You and I will speak later today, I'm sure. But thanks very much indeed for being here. Hope you can iron out the bugs before this time next month.
Yes.
And hoping even more that when you do come back next month, there might be some good news. I don't know how long I can type with my fingers like that, but I will give it a go.
No, I hope so as well. Yes, it's been good speaking with you.
I'll speak to you soon. All the best.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers, Neil.
Cheers. Bye.
Right. Sorry about the slight issues there. Obviously, they have had their technical difficulties over at the Builders Conference. I'm going to roll this in just a second. No, I'll tell you what. Where are we? Yeah, let me roll this, and then I'll start to land this damaged plane. Bear with me 1 second.
Sorry to interrupt the guy with the funny glasses, but if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button as it helps our channel. Or, better still, share this video with a friend or a colleague. Thank you. Right, back to Beardy.
Right, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today and to say hello to a few new people as well. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. Have a great day and thanks for watching. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll see you on the other side of this for what is going to be known henceforth as the craic. Right, shall we get some music underway, and then we can have a proper chinwag. Let's have a look. That's what we want. A bit too loud. I'm going to say a very quick thank you to Fred for monitoring all of that. Ken Hatcher was first off the mark this morning. Looks like he's got the usual mix of Welsh Wales weather. Morning, Ken. I know you've probably headed off by now, but thank you very much indeed for being here. Gary Muirhead is in the chat as well. Morning, Gary. Morning, gang. Happy 2023, everyone. Please, let's have a happy 2023. And Gary, thank you once again for the root beer. I did mention at the very start of the show, I'm not sure if you were here, but I had it with my Christmas lunch, and man alive, turkey root beer. I have seen tasted the future. Mark Whiting's here. Morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Peter Ferguson is here as well. Says good morning. Good new morning, new week. Here to you all. James Noble. Morning, James. Morning all and a happy new year. I can't believe I started the first show of the new year and forgot to say happy new year. This show never improves, does it? Nick Drew is in the house as well. Morning, Mark, and morning all, he says, and a happy new year to you as well, Nick. Jim Turner is here as well and made some great contributions a bit later on. I'll be coming back to that. How's Wales doing, Neil? We don't really know because the technical issues. I'm going to take a wild stab without Neil's assistance and say Wales is probably doing about as well as everywhere else. which is not particularly good at all. Let's have a look. Luke Hahn is here. Thank you very much indeed for being here, and a happy new year to you as well. Apparently I'm getting like Big Jet TV with a helper in the background. See, I've never actually watched Big Jet TV. I know I apparently have an uncanny resemblance to the guy that runs that. I think it's just a pair of glasses and a baseball cap. Never actually watched it, but yeah, it's got to the point now where there's just so much to juggle. I'm sure I've mentioned this before. When I first started to do these shows, I've got an array of buttons down the side of the screen, and my buttons used to run to 5, 6, sometimes 7 different buttons to press. This morning's show had 61. There's too many. There's just so much going on trying to keep up with it all. In addition to that, I've got this beauty here. That is my Stream Deck that controls an awful lot of stuff. I don't know if you can see the letters on that. There you are. Let me do it that way. You see the G. If I press that, let's have a look. If I press that, let me put a cursor in the chat. If I press that, that is the one that says good morning to Gary Muirhead. There's a K up there. That's good morning to Ken. I can do all of that, but it's as soon as you people ask a different question and I'm not prepared for, then the wheels start to fall off. Hence the reason we've got Fred working away in the background. Hopefully that's worked a bit smoother this morning. And he even does stuff like this, which I've never have time to do. For the latest news, head on over to demolitionnews.com. Demolitionnews.com for the column where I'm talking about the fact that we have no resolution to things like the CMA investigation, things like the Didcot investigation. So why are we worrying about New Year's resolutions? You can check that out over at demolitionnews.com. Thank you, Fred, for providing a link to it. Let's hope the experts are wrong. Yeah, the problem is, I think as you've heard there from the likes of Jim Turner and from the likes of Dan Cullen as well, it's not just the experts that are concerned. We are actually seeing this in real time. 15 texts in the space of probably half an hour to say that people are looking for work. Those are real humans looking for real work to earn some real money for their real families. And as Jim Turner says, on the housing side, lots of lads being let go. And we didn't really touch on this, but I will revisit it. One of the issues we've had is the fact that the housing market has been the crutch that has propped up the wider industry for the last 3 or 4 years. If that slows up, that has a real knock-on effect. Let's have a look. And unfortunately, I think this is going to be everybody, Ken, going a bit quieter on site, but still plodding along. I think plodding along is possibly the best we can do. No idea about Scotland. Probably about the same as Wales. I honestly don't know. But as we get the information, you'll be the first to know. Dan Cullen was a big admirer of that Doosan wheel loader. In Turner, I could definitely leave the site work behind and work in lumberyard. Much nicer surrounding. Nice smelling too. Always like I've only ever visited 2 or 3 visits, to lumberyards. And they always smell fantastic. There's Gary talking about the fuel theft. I've tried to stay offline for most of the Christmas and New Year's holiday, but I know the guys behind Fuel Theft Solutions, who are one of our sponsors on this show, I know they were talking about an upsurge in fuel thefts. I think part of that is obviously down to cost and what have you, but there's also that notion of extended Christmas breaks, so you can have machines parked up. And I drove past a site the other day, funnily enough. Say a site, it was parked by the side of the road. So there was I think there were 3 little excavators, a site dumper and a generator. And they'd done the usual thing of intertwining booms and dippers and buckets, and they put them all into the dumper so they couldn't be stolen. None of which will prevent somebody going and helping themselves to some diesel, which, given the cost of diesel at the moment, I'm sure is a great temptation to some. That's the Gallagher's. Gallagher's, great company, and what a sound fellow says, and Nick Drew really is. He's one of those people, and they are few and far between in this industry. I think Pat Gallagher is almost universally admired and respected, and fair play to him. 50 years takes some doing. That old fella took a lot of sense. He said, I'm sure I'm going to take a wild stab and guess that you're talking about Pat Gallagher and not this one. I can't be sure, but I think that makes more sense. A couple of Happy New Year messages to Neil Edwards, one from Ken Hatcher, one from Gary Muirhead. Ken Hatcher is undecided on Vegas, been 3 times before, it's very costly now. Yeah, we are looking at that at the moment. Obviously, we have other ways of doing these things and funding these things. Well, we are being at least partly paid to be out there, so that eases the pain. But I reckon it's at least twice the cost that it was this time 3 years ago. Hotel rooms are more expensive, and the flights are more expensive. Flights are probably 50% more than they were last time around. So yeah, it has gone up. If you can't make it, Ken, I'd love to see you there, but if you can't make it, fear not. Because both myself and Fred and Peter Haddock will be there, cameras in hand, to bring you the very best of the action. There is Ken going back to work as well. Rattling through. There is a comment there from, let me see, Tim Gosden. Morning, Dan. Never been on here before. Morning, Tim. I'm not sure if you're still here, but those that join us for the first time get some welcome confetti, so that's yours. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Now that you know where we are, we're here every day at 10 a.m, or every weekday at least. Now that you know where we hang out, perhaps you'll join us again at some point in the future. Let's rattling through. Mick Norton belatedly joined us. Morning, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for the messages over the period. I know they were provided in confidence, and that confidence will be maintained, but we're looking forward to speaking to you about the subjects involved at some point. John Paul Fitzmaurice. Morning all, Happy New Year. Late to the party today, back to work after a long extended break. Well done on the long extended break. Yeah, I have to admit I was ready to come back about this time last week. Still catching up on sleep and what have you, and I was only half joking. I have been literally studying video editing while I've been on the break. All the really cool stuff will obviously still be done by Fred, because he is the brains about that. But there are times when I need to do things on the run, and I thought I needed a better understanding of how all that works, so I've been studying that I'm scratching the surface at the moment, but hopefully you'll start to see an improvement in, particularly the stuff that we do while we're out on the road. Tim Gosden says, very interesting to hear different people's perspectives on a looming recession in the construction industry. That is kind of what we're here for, and that is why we are now calling this you guys are living and breathing this. You have a better understanding of any of this than those that are sat in their ivory towers poring over figures like the people that predicted 6,000 insolvencies in a year. You've got a much better take on this. So please keep the information coming. Share it with me, share it with Neil Edwards if you want to get a better handle on what things are, what is happening in your region, in your line of work. Builders Conference all day long. They have the information at their fingertips. They usually have the information at their fingertips. I'm sure they will again very, very soon. Did I get my surroundings changed over the Christmas break? Sort of. It's tidy. The room is tidy. I was actually planning to move. Do this your way. I was planning to move that way so that we had more of the background in view. But as I mentioned earlier, I've ordered a new laptop, which is about a week or so away, which is going to change the way that I do this show, or the way I control the show. So I've decided, for at least for the time being, to keep where I am now. I'll have a laptop this side, so that I can control a few bits and pieces. The other point with the laptop, and I know you're going to comment on this, Dan, but when we've spoken about me going on the road and reporting live from out in the field, it was always going to be with a mobile phone, and this system is very, very hard to control with a mobile phone. Now I'll have a proper all functioning laptop. Going on the road will be a whole lot easier. So my plan is to do that. In fact, part of my plan for this week is to reach out to a couple of companies, including JCB and probably Komatsu as well, to see if they would welcome me to their premises to do some live shows direct to you from the JCB World headquarters or the Komatsu UK headquarters. I'll keep you posted on all of that. Quite a few layoffs in the M62 corridor. Seems to be quite a few layoffs just about everywhere, aside from London, as far as I can tell. Although I know one of the demolition companies that I follow was certainly scratching for work, having had some London-based work cancelled on them at the very last minute. So I should be keeping an eye out for that. Welcome, Tim. Tim, you'll enjoy the crack on here. Oh, let's hope so. Just so you know, one of the plans that I had for while I was away. You see this surround, this orange and yellow surround. That's going to stay until we're 500 shows in, and we're on 437. So you've got to put up with this for another couple of months. But I wanted to have a backdrop for this part of the show that said somewhere the crack, and I was planning to make it look a bit Irish pub-like. But as you can see, there's not a great deal of room above, below, or on either side. So not entirely sure what I want to do with that. It's a work in progress. I'll keep you posted. Oh my goodness, another 4 calls and 5 texts coming in. It's really an eye-opener. And unfortunately, I think that's where we find ourselves. Obviously, it is the 9th. Some companies will have gone back to work middle of last week or possibly even earlier than that. But I think the real concerns are coming home to roost today. I think it's the first day when pretty much everyone is back. And I think we're now starting to see exactly what the situation is out there. 5 excavator operators, labourers and telehandler ops. Yeah, it's not looking good, is it? John Paul Fitzmaurice says, welcome, Tim. Thank you very much indeed for that. Be fantastic when you get your laptop and go live. Yeah, as I say, that obviously I'll very quickly fill you in because we are fast approaching an hour, and I know you've got better things to do than listening to me babble on. We mentioned ConExpo earlier in the show. Obviously, there is one hefty time difference between here and Las Vegas. So at 10 a.m. when I am usually broadcast here, if I'm in Las Vegas, I'll be fast asleep. It will be middle of the night. I won't be there. So the plan basically is that I will go to the show. I will compile video myself and Fred and possibly Peter Haddock as well. We'll compile a ConExpo-based show, which I will then take myself away into a dark corner, possibly in the ConExpo press office or possibly back at the hotel. I will broadcast that show live for our overseas viewers, those in Australia and America and what have you. But then I will rebroadcast it live at 10 o'clock the following morning. So while I won't be here in the chat, you will be getting the ConExpo news almost as it happens. Not quite as up to date as we are today, but almost. So that's the plan, and that laptop is going to be a vital part of that. We've already figured out how all of that works, just literally waiting for... I've got the annoying situation at the moment where I have... See that? That is the sleeve. That is the sleeve that is going to house my new Apple Mac laptop. I've got the sleeve. I've even got a little bag to put all the chargers and mouse and what have you in. I just haven't got the computer. It'll come, and hopefully you'll notice a difference. And it will also change the way we do this. If you were here for last year, and I know a lot of you were, one of the issues we've had is I've tended to take the day away from this if ever I'm travelling. Hopefully I'll now need to do that a bit less. Maybe if I am travelling, I may still be able to do some of these from hotels or possibly even sites, as long as I can get myself a decent Wi-Fi connection. So watch this space. But yeah, we are upping our game. There's a couple of other bits and pieces I want to make you aware of. Our YouTube channel has gone completely mental. I think we're. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you exactly because I have the capability. Where are we? Yeah, our channel has had 10,816,000 views in the past 28 days, and as it stands at the moment, we have 30,716 subscribers. So we are really pushing things over on our our YouTube channel, including the fact that we have a couple of new shows. We've got our new Tech Foresight show, which is talking about all things electric and more specifically hydrogen, with Tim Burnhope and Lee Harper up at GCB. That's live today. Also live today, what was the other one? Yes, the first episode of our Demolition's Greatest Threat, which is talking all about the threat from the embodied carbon lobby. And then tomorrow, we are going to drop, I mentioned it earlier in the show, over the Christmas break, I interviewed a young guy, he's only 17, Ben the Operator, as is the name he goes by over on Instagram. Really interesting young guy, really ambitious. The interview with Tim, I don't know where that came from. The interview with Ben the Operator will go live first thing tomorrow morning. And it really will restore your faith. I think there is always this temptation to question the work ethic of the younger generation. I wouldn't necessarily say Ben is entirely representative of his generation, but if he is, trust me, the industry is in pretty safe hands when we hand it on to Ben and his fellow 17-year-olds. So you'll be able to check that out tomorrow. What else is there? Yes, we can now take subscriptions over on our Instagram channel, which means that I'll be able to do behind the scenes type stuff, but also dedicated stuff as well. One of the issues I had last year was the fact that broadcasting to Facebook, to YouTube, to LinkedIn, to Twitter, piece of cake, one program, press the button, we're good to go. Can't do that on Instagram. Instagram is a completely different setup to go live. And as a result, I have kind of neglected what is our biggest audience. Excuse me, we've got 150,000 followers over on Instagram. And probably, I think I went live on Instagram twice in the last 3 months of the year. Nowhere near enough. So the plan is to up our game over on Instagram. As I said earlier, my plan basically this year is if I'm awake, I'm either recording, broadcasting or scripting. Literally while I was putting this show together this morning, I've been scripting another one, which will be another episode of our Tech Foresights show. So we already have a distinct market advantage because we jumped first in terms of going all in on video, all in on live streaming. Nobody has decided to follow us, perhaps because they've got better things to do, but nobody's decided to follow us, and our plan basically is to press home that first mover advantage. So we will be firing out video content right, left and centre, including we now have the facility, which you saw in the show earlier, to take a news snippet. In this instance it was the purple storm that is predicted for the UK construction industry, and then to add our comment to it and then broadcast that as a video. And the plan basically is to be much more reactive. If news breaks, be it an announcement like that, be it a new machine, I think we were the first in the UK to announce the fact that John Deere has now got an electric excavator in its range. You can check that over at our YouTube channel as well. But to be much more reactive. I find it strange that I'm talking about being reactive. I initially started my journalistic career on a weekly magazine, but I was always mindful of the fact that sometimes even a weekly magazine is 7 days out of date. I then moved to a monthly magazine, and I was very, very aware of the fact that was often 31 days out of date. I then started my own bi-monthly magazine, which sometimes was 2 months out of date. Switched to live streaming, and I was quite proud of the fact that everything we were delivering was a maximum of 24 hours late. We can do better. We can be literally finger on the pulse. So if something breaks, we will record a video to go with it, and we will blast it out through our social media channels. And if it's relevant for this show, we'll use that again at some point. Dan Cullen, have a great day, Mark. Great first show of 2023. Hope everyone has a great day and stay safe. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them before you leave the house, and look out for your colleagues at work and ask they're okay. See you tomorrow, one and all. Fine words to live by. Yeah, I always end my shows with look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. Dan Cullen always ends it with tell your loved ones you love them. Combination of those two, fine rules to live by. We are at 1 hour and 5. nearly an hour and 6 minutes. So, people, go tell your loved ones that you love them. If you haven't, if you're still at home, if you haven't, if you've left, give them a ring, give them a text, tell them anyway. But I'll be back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. for more of this. And if anything happens between now and tomorrow, I'll be live again. Who knows? Till then, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. And belatedly, very, very happy New Year. All the best.